Here we are back with the HP Pavilion A6045X PC, which is, as they point out, ideal for digital photos, music, and gaming. These are the current specs. And what we're going to do, I'm going to leave the CPU because I'd love to upgrade it, but I can't find a CPU compatibility chart for this system. So I have no idea what it will actually take as far as chips are concerned, but I'm sure I can get better than E4400 for crying out loud. You know, I've got some E6000 series Core 2 Duos that would probably work just nicely in this. I was thinking about an E6750, but I don't know if the system would support that. I'm going to leave Vista alone, but I am going to give it more than 2 gigs of RAM because Windows Vista could certainly use more than 2 gigs of RAM, so I've got 4 gigs of what I presume would be faster memory than what's in here. DDR2 667. I'm not sure what's in here now. I'm not sure if it'll take that memory or not. We're going to find out. I'm going to leave the hard drive, but I'm also going to replace the power supply because it's got one of these crappy Bestech ATX 250s in it. I'm actually going to install this 350 watt Enermax power supply, which is brand new. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get right on to that. Not really sure what's going on, but it must be some kind of race, and it must be exciting. Either way, we're more worried about this. And I find it amusing that they use this power supply with this machine, because it does not have a 24-pin ATX power connector, which I think is what this motherboard requires, which I just noticed now. So I'm not even really sure this is the original power supply, but it's the one that was in here, so I'm going to go ahead and, if I can, I'm going to see if I can find a way to get this out. Okay, there's your new power supply. I haven't installed it upside down, which is good. Got everything plugged in that needs to be plugged in, I hope. I wasn't sure if that portable thing down there needed the 4-pin floppy power connector. I couldn't find where it would plug in if it does, so it's just going to go without. I don't really have much of a use for it anyway. I don't have one of those pocket drives. So the next step is to replace the RAM in this flowery perfume-smelled machine. I'm telling you, even after blowing all the dust out of it, it still stinks. I have to leave the cover off for a couple of days and let it air out, because that's a terrible smell. I've now maxed out the RAM. I'm hoping that DDR2 667 will work, because the existing stuff is 444. So I'm not really sure. Sometimes, I mean, you never really can tell. I'm also not necessarily sold on this Enermax power supplies. They're a step above the cheap Chinese junk that you find in really cheap computer builds, but they're not that much better. At least they're honestly specified. But I would say that 250 watts is probably what this will put out, just based on the weight. I mean, there's nothing overtly wrong with these Bestech power supplies, it's just that they have a fatal flaw with the 5-volt standby circuit, where a capacitor will fail and the regulation will go completely out of whack. So, not so much a problem with the 12Z like this, but the 12Es are really bad. I still replace these when I see them, though. Alright, cabled up. Here's the switch. Ha! F10 to get it set up. That would be great. There you go. Entering setup. Okay. 4 gigs. 5300. Huh. That's supposed to be 6400, but that's okay. Well, it's 4 gigs. 4 gigs is 4 gigs. I'm not going to complain either way. But, yeah, that should be sufficient. I'm not sure why that's plugged into 5th drive. I may fix that. Actually, I know why it's 5th drive, because it's a IDE optical drive. I may replace that with a SATA drive, because I've got so many of them sitting around that I might as well just replace it with a SATA drive. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, it's still plugged into the wrong connection, but I have a SATA optical drive in there now. It's a Toshiba Samsung. So I was able to remove the big, bulky IDE ribbon cable that it doesn't need. So, we'll go for that. We'll go ahead and we'll let... That should be back to auto. So I'm going to set this up, because I don't think it's set up quite right. And we'll see where we go from there. I think this is the first board I've ever seen where there's no voltage monitor for the hardware monitor section. That's actually pretty sad. There's like not really much in the way of options anyway. So network group boot priority not installed. Well, that's interesting. I just enabled the boot wrong. So ultimately it doesn't matter anyway. I'm just gonna let this thing, yeah, there's a new option now, boot from LAN. I'll let this thing start. And we'll see what Vista thinks of its new upgrade. Does this have a hard drive LED on it? I'm kind of curious. Looks like the answer to that's no. There's no hard drive LED. That's a little unfortunate. But it's a cheap HP computer, so what do you expect, right? Right, there are the old Windows Experience Index scores. Hit refresh. Let it do its thing. Okay, and the new scores. The RAM did not change, but the graphics went up by 1 tick. So that brings our base score to a 3.2 from a 3.1. So, not bad, really, all things considered. But, I would have thought that the RAM would go up. It's got 4 gigs now. If you take a look. Performance. See total. I think this is a 32-bit version of Windows, so it's only going to see 3.5. Take a look. Yeah, 3574. This is a 32-bit version of Windows, which is fine. I don't need anything else anyway. I've never really... I don't even think I've got much. I think I've got one system that I've ever had that has had 64-bit Windows Vista on it. Most things just had 32-bit back then, because you didn't really need anything else. 4 gigs plus wasn't really a thing on the desktop yet until Windows 7 came out. So I've pretty much maxed it out in terms of what it's ever going to probably see. It's just going to keep this version of Windows. I'll probably uninstall some of the junkware, like Norton Antivirus is probably going to get uninstalled, because I'd imagine that's probably a lot of what's causing the issue with the thing deciding it's going to... Yeah, it's got all those messages on startup of things that have stopped working. I got a wireless card sitting somewhere around here. I can probably go ahead and install in here and maybe get some of the updates installed. I don't think there is a roll-up of all the Windows Vista updates available like there was for Windows XP. So, but of course that's just because most people don't even care about Windows Vista. Can't really say I really care about it either, but there it is. I've gone ahead and performed some much needed upgrades on this Pavilion A6045X. So thank you for watching, and if you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below.